Where did Christianity come from? I don't know how come my man and them don't get questions like these. The pastors and them don't get questions like this question right here. But being that we deal with some secondary, what we would call secondary doctrine, stuff that's not really important, and somebody thinks that, and people want to discuss certain things, and the church for the most part haven't been discussing certain things like secondary doctrines. Grace and peace, Rush. I'm glad you're here. And people want to know. So I said I was gonna jump on here. A homegirl was on earlier from, we were talking, she was on here not too long ago, but from earlier we were discussing certain things, and she started talking about westernized Christianity and all of this other stuff. People, we running around here acting crazy, including myself. People down with the church, we running around here acting crazy, like we don't know what's going on, like we can't see the signs. Um, One of the reasons that I don't know, I was wilding out last night talking about the conscious community. You got to love to hate those guys. But one thing I don't like is, I want to try to live by certain things, like when we start talking about do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Grace and peace, Baker. Grace and peace. Rome, I thought I just tried to hit your phone. I'm on the messenger. And it's interesting because there are certain things in Christianity. We're gonna stop acting like we're crazy. There's certain things in Christianity that people can definitely say are shaky. So somebody hit me, and once it's a long old email or stuff, I try to do my best. But some of y'all don't know. I'm reading too much other stuff to be going through some long essay. But I basically worked through what he was saying, and he said, where did listen to this, Baker, these people are just something else. They said, where did Christianity come from? And do not tell me God. Because when we start dealing with what's known as Christianity here in the States, some people would argue that we got unique problems here. Grace and peace, Richardson. We got unique problems here, and people are upset. When we say Christianity began in Africa, people want clarity on that. Well, what do you mean? And they heard my whole girl talking about Israel and tectonic plates and all of that stuff. But when we deal with the term Middle East, that's a fairly new term. The ancients didn't know what the Middle East was. If you read the footnotes, if you got that African American, African Heritage Bible, that guy gets into it. But there's a few different books, but that'll be one if you do have that Bible that'll speak to certain issues. A lot of people are upset that people are speaking to the culture. You can't be a Christian and speak to the culture. But there's been so much going on with the Bible and in the name of the Bible and with the Klan and in the name of and racism and in the name of America. And like I was telling the bishop earlier, the Bible says slaves obey your masters. I don't care how you cut the cake. To really explain that, I would have to sit here and take out a half an hour. I'll have to pull up slides and everything. Most people, if they're just sitting in the laundromat, barber shop, they're on the corner, and they say, why we need a short answer. We need a short answer. Where Rush at right now? We need a short answer. Why does the Bible say slaves obey your master? Rome, you hear me? Daughter of Zion. We know we can explain it. We can explain it, but a lot of people, they want a quick answer. They want a quick answer. They feel no matter what, it says those words and it's wrong. Stop playing with us and stop acting crazy. Both Grace and Peace. Hotel, we're going to try to get you on today. I don't know, I might be leaving. I might be getting on that highway. I'm going to try to definitely get you on by the weekend, Moses, so we can chop it up so people can hear your what you feel. And people do ask me about the esoteric and salvation. So where did this thing come from, Rome? I need some of y'all to help me out right now, because believe it or not, some people have strange answers, and I have some people that get upset. They be like, listen, man, you got to preach to them folk. You can't be running around here asking them folk questions, trying to put y'all head together, trying to get people opinion. They ain't playing with none of that stuff. They preach to them till they get saved, and they got to get saved and filled with the Holy Ghost. And you got to be, the way that guy is in his denomination. And if you're not doing it the right way. And a lot of people feel like that. But what Sister E brought up, I can get upset because, what my brother Brandon was saying earlier, when you start dealing with certain things, if you're going to go out and you're going to discuss a thing, you have to discuss the whole thing. That's one of the reasons in church we don't open up the floor. We don't open up the floor. We come to worship God, even in Bible study. We're going to study out of John, the Gospel of John, the nature of Christ, what we came to discuss, the work of the Holy Spirit in the life of the believer. We cannot open up that floor to all these folk, because these folk will be going all over the place. And a lot of people don't like people going all over the place. So we have avenues like this, because if people don't ask questions and people don't get questions answered, it has been my experience. Do not be offended. It has been my experience, Ernest, that people would leave, people would get frustrated, or people would go find that answer somewhere else. It ain't got to be the right answer, but they'll go find that answer somewhere else because they're seeking to understand some things where maybe grandma, them older saints, the bishop, them older pastors and stuff, it's nothing to them. Just love the king and stop worried about all of that stuff. Stop worried about stupid stuff like, is there a dome over the earth? That silly stuff. No, these things have to be incorporated into conversations. It's fear if these things are incorporated into conversations, and we can't continue, Brandon, we can't continue to be out here trying to act like a lot of what these people are saying is just meaningless nonsense. All right, some of us, we could call it, some of us, older people like myself, we're going to call it nonsense, but I understand young folk, and they're going to keep asking the same question. They're going to come back, and they're going to ask it, and they're going to ask it until they get some answers. And I don't think God is hating on anybody for dealing with answers. Brandon, we were just talking a little bit about, are you in a depot, you in a truck, you can speak? Let me say that first before I give you the microphone and I go to some of these slides. We were talking about some of the stuff that we discussed earlier, but basically I have a few questions, but somebody wanted to know, the main question is, where did Christianity come from? They said, don't say God. Did God have it in his mind a religion of Christianity? Of course, somebody is going to put down, somebody's going to put down in the bottom that Christianity is a relationship. Yes, that's absolutely so. Thank you, Russia. We appreciate you. You said, you so rightfully so that what people ask, if I ask and I say, where did Christianity come from? And say God, and then we turn around and say, because God gave it to us, it's not a religion, it's a relationship. And this is the normal talking points that we have as believers. And then once we say that, if you're involved in apologetics, if you're around thinking people and you're talking, once you say that, Baker, if I say it came from God, and then I turn around and say it's a relationship, people are going to ask what happened with spirituality and having a relationship with God for thousands of years before Christianity came on the scene. That's one thing. The second question is, did Jesus come and teach that he was going to form a new religion? Yolanda, we got to be careful. These folk trying to think. We got to be careful how we answering them. Did Jesus come and, because, we got scriptures for them. We can say stuff like, upon this rock, I will build my church, and the gates of hell, and Israel already existed. So apparently he was getting ready to do a new thing, not saying he was casting Israel all to the side, but apparently he was getting ready to do something else. And if we look back before Israel existed, God had relationships with people. Then the world began to get more wicked, and then he pulled out a nation unto himself. But y'all help me to help this person in the email. How would we answer that? Come on, Brandon, come to the microphone. And a lot of people will be upset and say, Doreen, you be talking nonsense on there. They thinking it's nonsense is because they're lost in the sauce. More and more people are asking these questions, and more people are sitting back and thinking, this really, why do we need Christianity? If God already existed and humankind's already existed, why is this very, very new thing the superior teaching of the planet that everybody, especially myself and different people that are evangelicals, that are pushing? Brandon, come up to the microphone. I'm going to try to read some of this.
Well, the development of it is first.
I
First
would
has
say
to be.
no. The most, oh boy, who was it? Oh, that's this daughter Zion. Oh no, let me see if you're going to say something ignorant. I would say no. The Most High didn't have any religion in mind. Yeshua didn't bring religion either. Oh boy, I wish Mike Shaw could help me with that one right there. Man, they starting off rough right there. Yolanda, you heard what was said, right? To fulfill the prophecy spoken about him. When we start talking about fulfilling the prophecy spoken about him, does that did because man will always take something further than it planned to go. Do you believe in your heart, Yolanda, that that was in the mind of God a religion? Because I got somebody on here, and I'm not going to pick on Moses. I got somebody in this group that's going to sit here and tell me, listen, man don't need the religion, or two, man invented religion. I know somebody gonna say it, so I'm gonna say it before they say it. What do we do with that? What do we do when we run into something like that? What did Jesus say he was sent to do? Oh no, don't tell me preach to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I wasn't sent for the Lord. You take me to Matthew 15. You know, I said, no, not to save them. All right. True religion. All right. That sounds good. True religion is holiness. True religion is holiness. We could then that could drag us into the creeds and stuff. Some people say because they don't want the creeds, they'll say certain things. Let me see what is that a side conversation, Jerome? Because I'm looking for some answers in here. I'm looking for some answers because people would say one thing and then the other thing that will come up oftentimes is it's not ours. It wasn't indigenous to us. We shared earlier today that if you do any true spiritual system, this is a relationship, but for other people that study, you know, these things. Moses may not be a Christian or Muslim, but he studied and he look at those things. He look at those pictures, as he say. Anybody that's dealing with any type of spiritual systems weren't meant to be color locked into any individual color. Even when you deal with Israel as a nation, Israel is in no one color. Israel ain't all black folk. Israel ain't no one color, no one nation, with no ethnic group. It's a nation of people that God has called together to himself. Some have straight hair, some have curly hair, some have light skin, some have dark skin. It's a nation. Like the United States of America is a nation. And we make a mistake when we start locking skin color into spiritual systems, especially when we start dealing with skin color. And skin color is a relevantly new phenomenon. Relevantly new phenomenon. Somebody says his name is not. Yeah, we got two books. We know his name is. You know, they didn't call him Jesus back then. Let me try to see. Everybody don't speak Hebrew either. No, that's a good point. There is no such thing as doctrine in the scriptures, but there is no such doctrine a doctrine is a teacher of scriptures that is called Christianity. That's I wish Rev C was on here. That's a good point. The word Christianity is not in the Bible. But theologians and scholars have often used, and we've done this from the earliest of times, to explain certain things to people. We've used terms that's not in the Bible. The word Bible is not in the Bible. Holy Bible is not in the Bible, but those are terms that we use to describe a thing, and it's always been like that. So we have to we got to understand that. But there's concepts that's within the Bible, the concept within the Bible. Now, what makes this conversation so hard is kind of what was getting my sister aggravated earlier when we were doing a live around noon today, maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, we were on. And when we were discussing that, she started talking about, you know, this Europeanized Christianity, and we have so mingled the Christmas tree and the Western culture and Halloween, and we've so mingled so much stuff with that when it wasn't so in the beginning. But now, because there's many of us arguing, you can have your culture. So if you're German, you can have your culture and you can have other things locked in with your Yule log, with your Christmas tree. If you're a European believer, if you're here in the West, and everybody from every culture, every religious belief, they'll follow Christmas now and stuff like that. And we would have to definitely ask people, has it done more damage? Has it done more damage than good? Because if you don't know how Okay, what about now? Tell me now. Baker, someone said Baker. Oh, y'all, can y'all hear me? This okay, is what about now? Okay, let me turn this down. Just type in yes, y'all can hear me down the end of the thing. So that's kind of where the problem comes in now. And then it's such a how can I put it? It's so crazy because if you start bringing up what Europeans have done or anything, people begin to get offended. People would be offended with it, and it's hard because it's like some people would say you can't even speak on certain things because automatically you're considered anti-Semitic. People can people can lay down, like some people would say, the finesse so heavy that even if you begin to critique a thing, and sometimes people would argue that we have it like that in the church, that the finesse, the game is so laid down that if you even begin to critique it, people automatically in your mind, if you just ask a question, oh, you're anti-Semitic. And then JDL is on you, Jewish Defense League, and they already done labeled you and everything. And people have and do things like that for a reason. They have and do things like that for a reason, and that's problematic right there. Okay, if I didn't get stuck, y'all type down in the. I want to make sure y'all are hearing me. I'm gonna put that link down there too. I want to make sure everybody is hearing me. Brandon, you there? If not, y'all gonna have to wait a second. Let me just try to go back. Okay, go ahead. Yes, sir. I can hear you. Go ahead. I'm gonna read. You got the floor. I'm gonna read some stuff. I see Jerome.
Well, where you going with it? Where we at? Because you froze up.
I didn't know how long I froze up. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can hear me. Where did I cut off at?
We didn't. I mean, it was like it just came out of nowhere. You were in the middle of saying something, and then we kind of broke up. So which direction you want to go now?
I'm just talking. I'm just talking about Christianity in general. How would you answer that question? Somebody said where Christianity came from.
Um, I would think that we would have to first start with original sin, um, and deal with the fact that you have to believe in man sinned and God trying to get back to man, the relationship with God, and coming down through that history, we get to God pulling out a people group from out of a people group to show himself to them, to redeem mankind back to a relationship. So through that process of thousands of years of doing that, um, prophecy came forward, and prophets came. God spoke to prophets, and we went down, and the Son was prophesied in the beginning to be with the Father and to come and redeem man. And that's where that comes from. So that is the belief
Somebody.
system.
Mhm. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. That was pretty much it.
No, because I was saying I could see the comments from here. Somebody said, "Now this is kind of the problem that we have in automatic church." People would say somebody like this is a cult. This is some cult talk right here. Gregory Mem said Jesus said, "Go and preach the gospel. Christianity is of Rome." These are the problems that we got with a pumpkin face. Father, Lord help us all. With a pumpkin face, a Christmas tree, a Santa Claus. All right, we get the message, but that's Brandon, that's our problem right there. That's our problem right there. And he said Christianity comes from Rome. Mike, sure, you might believe some other things along those lines also. How would you help answer that, Rush? That Rush, specifically the statement that I just read. How would you help answer that? Christ said, preach the gospel, Baker. Christ said, preach the gospel, and Christianity comes from Rome. Some people say, why are people so obsessed with Rome? Because Rome has caused some problems. Everybody in Europe going to hell, but Rome has caused some problems, and strong and jumping during the time of Christ. The Roman Empire, I think I read one report, is like 70 million people. I forget how many square miles they paved in roads. They conquered a good bit of the known world. They were definitely doing their numbers, and in the midst of that, hundreds and hundreds of years later, this small belief that had something to do with the man that was a peasant rabbi and it started develop, because remember, Christianity was nothing but a cult of Judaism. The Romans, they didn't acknowledge that thing in the beginning. It was the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Zealots. Now you got some other people saying, and some of them were Pharisees like Paul. Now you got some other ones saying that Jesus is the Christ, the kingdom is at hand, and blase, blase. And that teaching developed into what we would now call today Christianity, with a whole bunch of add-ons, snowball effect. Stuff got joined onto it. But in the beginning, the Roman authorities didn't acknowledge it. There was no problem. As a matter of fact, there were many Jews and Israelites, so say I say Israelites and Christians that were Israelites in the beginning, they worshiped together, and it wasn't totally separate until the destruction of the temple. Mike Shaw, other people want to argue that, many people in Christendom argued that the apostles, that Paul and them, and listen to how this can go from one thing to another, Brandon, that Paul and them, they used Saturdays, they used the Sabbath to go to the temple and to evangelize Jews, to a temple and evangelize Jews, but they were having church on Sundays. I'm going back to the screen right now on that. A lot of us in the church, we teach that they evangelized. Paul, as his custom was, went into the synagogue. This is the book. That's how come a lot of people that know the book, they'll try to hem you up into the book and get you out of the church fathers and get you out of traditions. What do we see out of the book? Seventh-day Adventists argue with Christians out of the book. Hebrew Israelites argue with Christians out of the book on certain things like that. And we'll go back and forth on, his resurrection appearances were on the first day of the week. And, we'll argue stuff like that. But people will be back and forth with those things. But the organization that we have now here that has flourished in the West that we call Christianity, and Christianity has flourished other places, is it of God? That's what people want to know. And there's no simple... Some people say, yeah, like somebody Justin here just basically said, no, it's not. That's not what the Most High taught. And others would say a simple yes. Or is it really rush? Is it really a little more complicated, because we have to explain? But the problem is the time that we're living in, when we start dealing with people, like I said, even with slavery, slaves obey your master. It's hard to meet somebody on the corner and they just ask you whilst you're giving out a tract, you're just talking to them at the bus stop or whatever, and you're talking about, and they just hit you with that. You try to tell them, God love you, you got to pray. I go to First Mount Zion Church and and the first thing they come to you is like, listen, that Bible ain't for me. Why would the Bible say slaves obey your masters? We're hearing Ricky Smiley say that. We're hearing people like T.I. say that. Now, we have to invent some type of a catechism or something to teach people that are really searching, that want to know. Some people say they don't really want to know, and those are tough questions, but you definitely just can't tell those people, you can't give them a short answer. We have to be prepared to answer and to talk with things and to help to work through this. This is how come I can say that what we would call declaring the kingdom or preaching or witnessing has to take on it has to take on more of dialogue now. It ain't like back in the days, you meet somebody, you knock on the door, they come into church crying, my husband left me, he beat me. Come on, pray, girl, confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, believe in your heart. I want to change, I hate that fool. And that's how we often catch people, and just, confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart. And then later on, the bishops and them told us, catch people and all of that stuff. They just emotional at that time. And then immediately we started baptizing people. Did we teach them anything? Some people argue you have to teach them, you have to disciple them, they have to come to class and they get baptized. So other people, the church doors are open, you're going to get baptized tonight, you're going down. And there are many that argue that baptism was a pastor or someone testifying, this is the time, and you understand that, and you're coming and you're showing an outward symbol of something that's happened on the inside of you. So we have different things. We have to understand that dialogue is important. And I'm thinking more and more as I'm talking with believers, especially in the fivefold ministry, they have no understanding about urban apologetics. They have no understanding they still believe in preaching to people. And I'm not going to say preaching is ever wrong, because preaching is Bible, but people need dialogue. People need questions and answers. Everything is not recorded in the Bible, Baker. But there's certain things that God did show us, and we could see it in places like John. We see personal interactions in John with Christ that we don't see in Synoptics. That's the first three gospels. John show us that Jesus have a private conversation with a ruler of the Jews. If you come to people, if I'm coming to Moses, I just can't run up on Moses, and Moses have been reading scripture, laying into scripture. Like I was talking about the other people earlier that said, listen, I was Muslim, I was 5%er, and this and that been through a whole bunch of different spiritual beliefs in seeking certain things. So you just can't run up on them and tell them certain things. You have to dialogue with people and give them time to think and begin to try to understand the depths of these things. Jesus said, truly, truly, I say unto thee, Nicodemus. That was a personal conversation. Now, he's a ruler. He said, aren't you a ruler of the Jews? Aren't you a leader? They're talking about I don't get impressed when leaders don't understand what I got to do. Aren't you a leader and you missing this whole thing? You don't even understand what's going on. And we have things like that that's often happening. People just don't understand what's going on. So we have to have we have to have dialogue with individuals and give them time to grow and understand that this is a process. Like I said, there's many of us that we want to get somebody to crying and praying now because we don't think that's a crown and that's a jewel in our crown. We led another soul to the Lord. We got to remember that one plant and somebody else water, and God is going to give the increase. And that's how I think we can't rush people in dialogue. It's good to talk. Now, do we have preaching and declaring of the gospel in church? Yes. But when you're on the job, when you're seeing someone constantly, it's good to throw out questions and take questions from them and throw out answers. This is how people build. This is how people learn. Another thing we have to do is throw the pride to the side. A lot of times be like, listen, I'm an elder in my church. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. You over here, the copying machine, I'm an elder in my church. And people, they could sense that. They could sense that copy. So you think you're an elder, and I'm just asking you about the Christmas tree, and you taking into this highfalutin exegetical, because you're an elder, and people feel a certain way with all of that stuff. I don't think Christ made people feel like that. And I believe he was God manifested in the flesh. I don't think he made people feel like that, but for some way, some of us stumpers will get to making people feel a certain way. And that could be a problem. Let me see what Mike showed. Let me see. Is this old stuff here? The higher order of Israel was and is the children of Israel. Now the stranger can cling to them and be as a homeborn. I guess that's a side conversation, how you're actually treating, how Israel's treated strangers and other individuals. Let me see if I'm seeing it the same on the phone. Heard that also. Okay. All right, come on. I'm trying to go back and read some stuff. All right, come on, sister. I know you might be in the gym, but you're kind of the one that started some of this stuff earlier. And I got a question, so I wanted to bring some things out here. And even when I say that I'm upset, or I'm like, oh no, she cutting in and she said this and that. These are things that have to be discussed. And because the elders, because the pastors, because the church folk don't want to discuss, that don't mean that folk gonna just stop talking about it. We might as well just throw them days out the window and stop fooling ourselves. Come on, Sister E. I'm gonna try to read some stuff here.
What you want me to say?
I want you to continue to comment on what was being said and what you heard from earlier. Roman Christianity. Where did Christianity come from? You earlier.
But you got to realize we got to look at the history of Christianity. What were they called before anything else? They were called people of the way.
Why is that? Why? Let me cut you off. I said I was gonna read. Why is that important?
Because that's the beginning of it. You get to see what practices they did. You understand from their viewpoint, because that's the most when it was the most fresh. So you got to think about some of those people that call themselves people of the way may have had contact with Jesus Christ. You're talking about first century Christianity, or not necessarily Christ, but maybe the apostles. That's all I'm saying is at the very beginning, how did it look? What did they do?
Okay.
How has it changed?
Okay, so there she goes. You see how she snuck that in there? She believed it has changed. Well, let me stop lying. It did change. It changed a little bit. things grew and
Yes.
was added on to it, and that's all right. But there's people that's attempting to go back to a primitive thing. There's people attempting to understand it, and there's people that's attempting to escape from the Christian church in general, just because of these things, and we haven't been having dialogue. And others explain, listen, apologists, the only reason apologists come on the scene is just to defend that thing, because people are leaving. And I've got that email, I've got that text, I've got that memo a few times. Y'all are just trying to defend it because people are leaving, and apologists want to explain away everything. Is that correct, Rome? Is that correct, Rush? We just want to explain away everything. Or there are some things, like I've said multiple times, there are some very, very good points that other people have, such as some Israelites. He's bringing out some good points. And are there other believers that feel like that, but they dare not say it? Because we've been trained not to talk. And if we've been trained not to talk for generations, and we've been trained not to question what's of God and demand of God, that could be, it could be problematic. It may not be, but it possibly could be problematic. Text my phone, Pastor. Text my phone.
And
Come
the
on, come on.
crazy thing is, Berean, it's not bad to ask questions. It's not crazy to ask those questions. People deserve answers to those questions. And people now have got to put a stigma on people if they ask questions, they're a troublemaker. How is someone a troublemaker if I'm just trying to get clarification on something? So, or you
I'm sorry, go ahead.
or you tagged as not being a believer if you ask questions. How is that equate me for not being a believer or others like me? Nobody's saying they stepping away from Christ. Christ is it. That's it. That's the only way. Because when he said, I am the only way. That ain't no problem. But I'm talking about some of this other stuff that's going on. With the prosperity ministry, all this stuff. It's a lot going on in the body, in the building.
I agree with Elder. Elder said earlier, he said we have some self-cleaning to do, and there's some self-cleaning that we don't want to, there's some stuff that we just don't want to check in. We definitely have to check it. Listen to what Pastor Majors from Boom Church says. He said in the early church, they lived as followers of Christ. They didn't run around throwing the title Christian. Where Rome at, is that historically correct? This is a pastor that's an Israelite. Is that historically correct? Rush? Is that historically correct, Rome? I want y'all to type that down in there. I want y'all to type that down in there, because you got to remember, even when we start researching the thing, we don't have we don't have a lot of people using that term. It came about later on. A few years after a few people started mocking them in Antioch, calling them Christians, but everybody wasn't using that term as some badge of honor. People weren't really doing that. And it's not to say automatically the old Pentecostal in me will say, well, yeah, Israelite, he tried to tear down the word Christian, he tried to tear down the church. But that's just facts. And a lot of things no matter what, especially if y'all coming on here dealing with us on Berean TV, y'all gonna have to know that there's certain things that's been what we would call sacred cows. There's certain things that's sacred cows that we're gonna have to part ways with. Now, I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but I believe when we start talking about the truth, and then y'all run around here talking good stuff, I want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but you sure about that? Because a lot of times we running our mouths. Hit me, Pastor Mark. Oh man, we got to get your man on here. They hit me about the testimony. They love that 3 people, and we got to bless them with that. Hit me, Pastor Mark, on Messenger. But what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that? Especially that we have a people now that's a thinking people. Even people that weren't, back in the days, even people that weren't saved. The grandson come over the house. I don't know, my grandmama a Christian. My grandmother just say, pray. I know she a good woman. That's all right. Now the grandson going home to jail. He coming back home. He doing what he's doing. He trying to make it happen. But he done read some books. He done sat down and dialogue with some people. Some kids done went away to college, came back. Grandpa, they could go to historical black college, or they go to another college, and they hear professors talking about evolution, and it's the big thing to mock the Bible. If you're a Christian, it's the big thing to mock the Bible. Now young man grew up hearing, all of a sudden he got a professor he's looking up to in college, and that professor shooting that book down. He going back to grandma and them. He feel a certain way because now he done found out something about biology, and it don't line up in his mind with what he understands. And grandma think he's disrespectful because the pastor christened him when he was a little boy. Help me out, Rush. Times change. And it ain't like the young people are getting, oh, they more wicked. They more wicked. No, they're more questioning. And they're not going to sit back like other people and had questions wrong. They ain't going to do that no more, Baker. These folk want to raise their hand in church. Like, yo, question. I'm like, we was up there talking. Somebody had their hand up. I thought that, like, you'll bless his name. Somebody lift my hand up in church. No, this other person had their hand up like you, Baker, with one finger up. This other person here in the middle of that talking. This one person want to stop and get the question and some stuff. I'm like, boy, this is what it is. This is, and we have to get used to these things. This is some stuff that's happening. We have to get used to these things. Let me try to, come on, get the mic on Brandon or Sister E. I'm trying to, some stuff is getting past me here that I really don't. Grace and peace, Sister Deborah.
But Jeremy said something. He said they were.
You're breaking up a little. Go ahead.
I said they were called Christian before, at the time of Antioch. But they got to understand that term Christian, and again, I'm not knocking that term. But you got to understand why they were calling them Christian. Why the people in Antioch were calling them Christian. And it's not a bad term. I'm going to be quiet now. Okay, then. Come on, Brandon.
No, I want you to talk. I want you to talk because I want to make sure that ain't the religion and me wanting to shut you up and mute you. And I got to make sure I'm hearing the spirit right now because I feel like muting you all the time. But maybe I could be. And just be quiet for a minute. Go ahead.
Again, I don't want anybody to leave the faith. That's not my goal. If this is keeping you grounded, stay in the faith. Don't leave it. But sometimes people have questions of, where did the word Christian come from? Why did they call the people that? Why did they refer to them as Christian? How did the word derive? That's even how did the other word, that's just a question I've always had. So, I'm going to shut up now. Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon, you see, she knows she finna, go ahead, Brandon. She knows she finna, let me see, Mike, show the higher. No, I'm not seeing it here. I have to go back to I have to look at it on my phone. I'm trying to, give me a second, y'all. I'm trying to catch up on the questions.
My personal opinion about how Christianity became dominant is, this is just personal. This is not law or this is personal. I believe Christianity became what it became because people were willing to be martyrs for the faith. In Rome and different cultures coming out of war, people were used to being able to dominate a person and with fear of death. So when in the first church, when they were being threatened by lions and all of these different things, and you had multiple groups of people from all ethnic groups standing and willing to die for something that they believed in without raising their hand with violence to protect themselves, that type of thing moves people's heart. Like, what is this that you have that makes you want to stand up and die for this in the face of excruciating pain? And that was just something I've seen that was new for a whole group of people, different ethnic groups, to come to a relationship with something that had them all doing it. So you couldn't knock the faith off because you couldn't threaten people with death.
And that's kind of crazy because that was very new in the it was only the Jews and it was only those other people that came from Jews. So they looked at those troublemakers together. Only the Jews didn't want to acknowledge Caesar's Lord and go to the celebration. So you could celebrate, you could be a part of the government, and you could acknowledge Caesar as Lord, but the Jews didn't want to do that. And the earlier followers of Christ, they didn't want to do that. So special attention was given to them. The ones that were the Jews, the Israelites that believed in Messiah, they said there's one Lord and his name is Jesus, and they didn't want to acknowledge that said Caesar was Lord, and that was beef. That's interesting because what you said, because as time went on, and they've been trying from Nero and different wicked emperors, they've been trying to stamp out this belief system, whilst they let other religions flourish, because those other religions, they were willing to practice their religion plus acknowledge Caesar as Lord and do the state religion at the same time and not have beef. But there were some other people that were troublemakers. They didn't mind the guy, and they didn't want to. So years and years after on and off persecution, and they see that they couldn't stamp them out, some people teach that automatically Rome said, we can't destroy this religion, we're going to take it over and we're going to control it, and we're going to make it what we want it to be, because it's spreading, and the more we kill them, the more they growing. That's how come one verse, I think that's in Fox's Book of the Martyr, that the blood of the saints was the seed of the church. People were dying like crazy in the beginning. Before 313, before the Edict of Milan, there was a bunch of dying. That's a good point that you brought out, Brandon. Somebody said, this is Bell. Bell, you see how you got people thinking about me, Sister E? Do you mute her all the time? I try not to. I've been muting her more because
I'm a radical.
We just gotta let us all pray. We just gotta pray. But I want to say something else. I'm going to go to some other questions, but I got to bring out something my man Moses said. Daughter of Zion. I want to make sure Rome is in here, and I want to make sure Rush hear this. Even Mike Shaw, please help me. We ain't see you in a minute. Please help me with some of this stuff. My man Moses right here. Moses said, in Antioch, the disciples first called the teachings of Yeshua Jesus Christians. They thought that it was Krishna Christ. Rome, you heard what he said. They thought it was Krishna Christ. Was the belief of Krishna jumping in Syria of Antioch, where they were first called Christians? Was that English word used there? Because in the language, it's not similar. But we'll hear people from conscious community. I've heard Ray Hagan say that. And that's another thing, like I said, why this dialogue is important, because now we got different groups or sets of people. I didn't know it. And like I said earlier, I want to be fair. We got the pseudo, like Sister E brought up, them pseudo, that prosperity stuff. Sister E consider that, like myself and Brandon, pseudo-Christianity. Word of faith, touch all this nonsense they doing in Africa, kicking the lady in the belly, stomping people out, peeing on them, doing all type of foolishness, touching private, just foolishness, eating grass. A lot of this stuff is nonsense. It ain't but pure nonsense, and we get offended behind that. That ain't the true teaching of Messiah. So if we're going to be offended, like I said earlier in the video, I want to be fair to those other people. So if we've been talking about people making silly statements like Krishna, I've heard that from Seti, I've heard that from Ray Hagens, I've heard that from other people. I don't want to make those the face of the conscious community when there's other people that understand and study the language and the history, and they argue on a different level, and they know that's nonsense.
But you know what? Again, it goes back. They were named that because of they couldn't figure out what to call them. Actually, before they were called Christian, they were called people of the way. Am I wrong or am I right? When they call people of the way.
Too much. You trying to drag me into it. You want me to put fringes on. Where Major?
I don't want you to put no. I don't want you to put no fringes on.
So what you doing all this? Why you doing all this Israelite talking?
I'm not, but that's the truth. Wasn't they call people of the way at first?
Hey yo, you see how I threw that in there? You see how I threw that in there, Rome? I said all this Israelite talking. Oh, you got to watch these apologists. I shouldn't have said that. But that was a good one to get her. You trying to scare me to her gang. But is that, and can I separate truth from my feelings and my clique that I'm running with? Welcome to me.
And again, I don't want anybody to turn away from the faith. The Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, is the only way. He is the way only. And I'm not taking anything away from that. And I definitely understand that. But I'm just saying, when we say the history of Christianity, let's actually look at the history from the very beginning. You know, what were they called at first? What did they do? What were their practices? Because obviously now our practices are mixed in with so much stuff that we can't really just tell what was done and what was not done. That's my biggest question. What were they doing at the very beginning of the faith?
And then y'all know, and then so y'all see how she asked those questions. Of course, that's you can teach from asking questions. Oh, she a slick one. She's been around for a minute. You can teach people through asking questions. Some people feel you got to get up and preach them and declare to them, but Jesus did a lot of teaching from asking questions. Who do men say that I am? Y'all got to learn that. And there's a lot of people out here that got to learn that you can teach through asking questions. And one of the things that troubled me is if you get someone that really claim they know the Bible and they like the Bible, and we really want to get it through the Bible, that's kind of where we can run into some problems, especially when we're dealing with this here in the West. She's my homegirl. I know what she believes. I know what she's teaching. But if you get certain people like Israelites, and if you get certain people that believe a certain thing, and you really want to hem them, and you try to make them stay straight to the Bible, let's not go to CBS. Let's not run to the church history. Let's not run to what happened 125 years after the fact. If we go to the earliest state of time, if we go to ground zero, police, when the plane crashed at NTSB, they don't want to go. They want to go to the airport. They want to go to where the plane went down at. That's ground zero. We want to see what happened right here. And that can be a problem for a lot of people that likes this Christianity in the West and think the Christmas tree is part of the Bible and part of salvation and part of that other stuff. Because the more you question them, the more you take it back to a primitive time, the more we can run into some problems. But back then, we didn't have fancy communion tables. We ain't have robes. The bishops ain't had no big crosses on and all this bishop hat on their head looking like the Pope and all of this other and I'm calling it nonsense. All this other nonsense that has nothing to do with the spirituality. They say that's symbolic, and by people looking at the crook, the shepherd's staff, and these different things, you can understand certain things. We use things like symbolism, feed a sheep. Yes, you're a sheep. We're sheep. And and we can understand and look at it like that. But some people, there are more and more people saying, like Brandon, there's more and more people. And Brandon not even flying Israel flag. From Brandon, not saying he Israel, but he's saying, listen, there's too many young folk out here that's smart. We got to go back to the beginning, and we can't half step it. Of course, anything outside of half stepping, his own terminology a few hours ago was cooning. It's cooning. And trust me, there's many people already believing that this passes out here that's down with the government, that just want to appease, that just want to control the people, that just want to calm the people down and make the people go along with the pagan program. What do I mean by that? Remember, there's a lot of people that feel that because the movement existed prior to Constantine, prior to the Edict of Milan in 313, where they said, listen, we're going to stop beating these people, killing these people, and taking these people property and feeding them to the lions. Constantine shut that down. But some people say, that was okay, but that was the beginning of the nonsense. So now, when they show up at the Nicene Council, it's Cornelius Eusebius and other people that were bishops in there that got whipped from years earlier underneath different emperors. They were beat, they were abused, eyes were cut out. One brother says his eye was missing. People were abused, so they came out. We know it wasn't no nonsense because they was ready to die for what they believed. But now we got a new set of bishops coming up now because this is the popular religion and they don't take your house no more. So now we got people that want to be bishops that's not even saved, and they jockeying for position. It's like being the mayor of a city. If I could be the mayor of Atlanta, I'm gonna run through that. I'll run through down south like that. I'll be all up in I ain't gonna say what, I'll be all over the place. Y'all know how some of y'all will do if y'all got a boss position, and this is where the problem comes in. And there are many people that believe that as time went on, other people that weren't really feeding the sheep, that didn't really care, they were jockeying for the position of a bishop because she wasn't getting killed no more. And now some people would even argue that has come down from that time even to now, that there's many bishops that aren't saved. They just in there to get the chicken. They in there to get the possession on the blessings. They in there because their father was a bishop. They're in there for different reasons. That's how come I told people were upset. But that's why I told people, I said, listen, when it comes down to it, you don't even have to be saved to be a bishop, to be a pastor of a church. Let's not get this thing confused at all. But this get other people upset because these are kind of the harder conversations that get people like, yo, I ain't going, man. I ain't church. You ain't, it ain't even really none of that. It's not really none of that. Come on, Sister D. Sister E. I'm looking at my man D here. Come on, Sister E. I forgot I passed the birthday. Oh, Brandon, come on, come on. Let me try to read some of these things. I'm trying to send some stuff out at the same time. Yeah, so it's a lot. So it's a lot going on here.
A whole
Let me
lot
go
going
to
on.
the car. I'm gonna answer the question. I'll be right back. I'm gonna run to the car because my headphones died.
To get a headphone, what you saying? All right, go
My
ahead, Brandon.
headphones
She
died.
said something about running. I heard she say something about running to the car. I'm gonna try to see if I can get it on here. I just wanted to turn this volume down. So you know that's part of the thing right there. Another thing on that subject, we're talking on that too, but something else that somebody hit me with, and they're a person of African descent, I believe. And they said they heard us, some Christians, get upset because on this channel we talk a lot about race relations and stuff like that. And some people get upset. Somebody said, Brandon, listen to this. What about the prejudices among us as a people? I gotta go. I gotta see the certain stuff. I be want to see people's faces. I gotta look at my phone because I want to see the comments. Y'all know what it was back in the days when they were brown paper bagging people. And what's the other rapper name? I forget the other Mendici, I think he was. It was the other brother back in Love and Hip Hop a few years ago. A lot of people was upset with him because he said something to the fact of the light skin is the right skin. Why we glorify the light skin in our neighborhoods? Some brothers all they want is a light skinned girl. Some girls all they want is a light skinned guy. We had Elder Rose was on here earlier. That brother was talking, and he said, it's been some stuff among us as a people with skin complexion when we start dealing with race. And I remember Irritated G was saying something about mulattoes and the role that mulattoes have played. Excuse me, the roles that mulattoes have played throughout, just throughout the whole thing, from slaves being freed all the way up until today. Even in Hollywood in the beginning, some of the people, when they did let a few blacks come in there, they wanted to make sure they got the almost light ones. We had the whole thing, I believe it was with what magazine was that they lightened up Beyonce, and they claimed that people were kind of really upset with that. And they said, oh, they know that they do that all the time. And the whole Dove thing not too long ago, just the whole thing, the girl taking off the shirt and she was dark and she became lighter. What what would make us think that our spirituality is not going to affect a lot of the things, our soulish state, our mental states, with a lot of the things we've been attacked with? This has been psychological warfare, Brandon. And I don't want, like my man said, he said, oh no, here's the great, powerful white man again, just coming up. But there's a lot of stuff that we've been doing. Somebody said that was AKA the Deltas, that they used to paper bag. You couldn't join the black sorority and fraternities if you were darker than the paper bag. What was that about? Historical black colleges, why they doing that? They want only the light-skinned people to be down? Come on, y'all, talk to me right now.
I'm back. What's your question, or do you want me to go back to the original point I was about
You
to
can
make?
go back to the original one, but I know there are a couple of seconds behind us. I don't know what's going on with this screen, but I can see it on the, go ahead, you got the floor. I can see it on the phone.
So again, I want to let the viewers know that I'm not saying anything against Christianity, because I was raised in Christianity. Christianity is what made me who I am, as far as my belief upon Christ. So I'm not speaking against it. I mean, I'll never speak against it. I consider myself to still be a part of the body of believers, Christianity. But my question is this: that's my biggest question. What were they doing at first? Because what we're doing now, that's my biggest concern. Does it relate to what they did at first? If one of the apostles was able to come on the scene, I'm just saying hypothetically, would he recognize what we're doing? Will he be able to say, okay, yeah, this is the belief system? Or would it be like, okay, what are y'all practicing? You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
Does it make sense what I'm saying?
but yes, I do get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. All right, go ahead. No, I'm going to try to read some right now.
And the Kemetic community is using these type of conversations to turn on the people of the believers. Because
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think, all right, I'm gonna say it, they were in the beginning, those were Christian Israelites. A lot of those people were Christian Israelites. So are you saying that maybe it would be less problems if the church was to more practice like yourself?
I mean,
That's a question.
that's
Come on, say,
a
tell the truth,
question.
shame the devil.
Um, how can I word this? I am a
You can word it like
believer.
Israel. Go ahead. I know already how you gonna word it. Go ahead.
I honestly think that we do need to go back to the beginning of it, how they practiced it. Now, can we get documentation for it? I don't know. A lot of things got lost throughout time. But if we ever have any documentation to say that they worshipped it this way, I think we should go back to it. Does having Saturday church tied to your salvation? No. But what I'm saying is some of the things that we're doing within the church now that we deem as salvation has nothing to do with the Bible. I remember as a kid, when I met someone and they did practice Christmas, my mom had me thinking that they was almost going to go to hell. Because that's just how we think as Christians now. That the practices, going to Sunday service, doing Christmas, doing Easter is related to our salvation, and it's not. It's not. It's no different than me saying that Saturday worship and feast days are tied to salvation. Only way for salvation.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor. It's like if for the last couple of months since the E come on, and when she start talking, I just rub my head. White, help me. Help me out. Just help me, White. That's all I'm asking. I want to read the comments. Just help me, White. Say something, please.
Yeah. What's going on, Brother Maria? What's going on, Sister E? So I think that ultimately, what the sister's trying to say is that we want to understand whether or not we are practicing according to, what they believed upon, first century, and that's a legitimate question. And I think ultimately, it's not so much are we acting right, but it's more do we believe right? Because I think that if you have the correct information and you have the correct belief, the correct actions will follow. And so I believe that to be so. So, for an example, I believe that Jesus Christ lived, died, and resurrected, that he is God in the flesh. And so my actions are guided by that, right? He calls us to love one another, us as believers to love one another, but also for us to love our neighbor, those who extend around us. He also calls us to love God, right? So to love God, love our neighbor. And so ultimately to live in that reality doesn't just mean, am I going to church every Sunday, or am I keeping the Sabbath? And so a lot of time we speak in these terms of just like, am I doing ritual right, or am I doing actions right? But it's all a matter of, am I living out the gospel in a way that's pleasing to God, and that's ultimately calling other people to respond to that same gospel that I responded to. Now, I'm not making excuse for people to do what they want and live in lawlessness. Listen to what I just said, because I think that people get that. I think that people give too much leeway for words here. So I'm not saying that people can live how they want, but what I am saying is that the way that you view in the doctrines that you hold and the beliefs that you have, believing correctly will lead to the right action.
Let me ask you a question, and I bet you I keep up muted this time right here. Let me ask you a question, White, because I often hear you believers argue that what's that Romans, that no man don't esteem one day above another, and they try to. Can you slide Christmas in that verse when he starts talking about esteeming one day above another, and being, and every man being persuaded and this and that? That's where you could add Christmas and Halloween into that as a believer, or when the apostle was right, he wasn't talking about that.
All right, so Colossians 2:16 through 17. All right.
Yes, so that's what I mean. I'm talking about Romans. Yes.
All right, so we've been talking about this a lot lately, but again, I think that
be careful.
I think that I think that we hold the the people's feet to the fire and enforce our culture onto them, or either force a culture that we don't even participate in on them as well. And so I think that a lot of people don't, either they do understand what the holidays were or still might be, but they may not understand that the gospel fits into any culture. And when I say that it fits into any culture, that doesn't mean that the culture remains the same once the gospel, the good news, becomes a part of that culture. So what happens is that Yah says you can keep your culture, just conform it, transform it in a way that then fits me into it. In other words, cast down the things that are unholy and unrighteous in your culture, but you can keep your culture. Um, and so that's my outlook, and it's like, people sort of get caught up on the things. Christmas, okay, they may be foreign to brown people because Europeans were celebrating them first, and I'll say, yeah, that's true. But the thing is that our culture's been stripped from us, and so it's like, well, what do you do? That question was asked earlier, and so you have a couple of options. You either participate in the culture that's given to you, find another culture, or get your DNA test done and see what it leads back to, and celebrate every culture that's in your bloodline, which is probably 15 different cultures, and celebrate all 15 cultures, which is going to be some European in there.
Yes.
So and so ultimately, it's like, our culture was stripped, or at least, we didn't get to experience our culture as it was because, we were taken away from a land. But because this is the land that we live in, and they have a certain culture, we are not called to conform to the things of the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, which means that I can still enjoy culture in its many aspects, but cast down those things that are idols in my culture, in the name of the one who I'm proclaiming, which is Yeshua HaMashiach.
Bye, Red. Red Marby said, okay, I'm out. Bye. Sister E, back to the other thing now. When we start talking about the skin color, let's answer that question for that person. When we start talking about the skin color, light skin is the right skin, and all of this other stuff, I want you to speak a little bit on that right there. What's the problem with that among us? I was talking about that brown paper bag test. It was certain fraternities, sororities didn't want people inside their organizations if they were too dark skinned. We've always, people have always glorified light skinned individuals in this country. What do you say concerning that? White, you light skin, you think you're better than me?
Ask that one more time, please.
You light skin. Come on, Sister. You heard me. Come on now. Go ahead. You heard me.
He said you're light skinned, so you feel like you're better than him.
And this has been something that's been among us as a people for a long time. And someone brought that out. They said we're always talking about different things when we talk about race. What about within our own culture? That just people that only hire light skin. They want the secretary to be the light skinned girl in the front. Who was going to be the face of the company? Got to be the light skinned girl. Some guys only want a light skinned girl. Is that a part of the sickness? Man,
so Rose kind of spoke on this
earlier. I said that right before you popped in.
And for me, and he would understand as being another light skinned brother, but it's difficult being light skinned because
and pro black,
because you get the short end of the stick. And so my psychology is just as much messed up as anybody else's, because I'm not fully accepted as an African American. And so I went to a Nation of Islam meeting one time, and it was odd, right? Because I'm light skinned. The only other light skinned person is Elijah Muhammad's son. but because he has a certain position, he's still black. But
They let
me,
him slide. That's right.
yeah, but me not so much. And so the and then by the white folks,
They still look at you as a black
yeah,
man.
they still look at me as a black man, and so I don't fit in. I don't fit in either way. But I still love and uplift, all my people. But again, it's a conundrum because people do think that, because I'm light skinned, and I know that being light skinned has its perks. I'm not dumb, and I acknowledge those perks. But at the same time, I get flack from both ends. I'm not black enough, and I'm not white at all.
Okay, Sister E, I'm trying to go through the comments right now. You
And
kind of
somebody,
you in the middle, but you've experienced some of that. What do you think concerning that?
Light skin, dark skin. The weird thing is, where I live, it's not really a big deal of your complexion. I've never had an issue with my complexion my entire life. It never has been my issue. I have friends that deal with that. I've never looked at someone that's light skinned and say, I wish I was light skinned, because we never made that a problem. Even, at one time when I wanted to actually pledge when I was in college, the one that says you're supposed to have the lighter paper bag, that's what I was looking at. And it never was a problem with me. It was never an issue. I think it depends upon your environment and where you're from. Like my friends from Louisiana, skin complexion is very important to them, because the lighter you are, the prettier you are. Now that's the mindset of my friends in Louisiana.
Right.
But in Tennessee, I don't know. Tennessee is weird. It's not really about your skin complexion. It's about the way you shape. I'm just gonna be honest. It's different here. So I've never really experienced complexion and what it means to be light skin, dark skin, and how you feel. Because there's never been an issue for me.
Okay, Brandon.
I saw some comments in the chat and talking about scholars.
Oh no, he going. Yeah, he going. He talking about. He said he was
Yeah,
going
I'm talking
by.
about the scholars and
Yeah.
this
No,
type
let
of
him go.
thing.
I'm talking about this other stuff here.
I know I'm just so concerned about these brothers. I think sometimes they think we retarded. Do they not
Of course they
understand?
do.
Do they not understand some of us hold some of the highest intellectual degrees? I don't even talk about my degree. Like in mathematics.
Exactly.
Like nobody's retarded. Like
right?
I can come on here and be talk about math, and I took calculus, all of these different things. Like, do they that doesn't mean anything. I could get on here and pontificate about all of that
After the
foolishness.
time when
Come on, man, stop it. Everything,
people,
you puffing, you want to puff yourself up when you get into that
brother,
not
there's
scholar knowledge,
another.
that stuff, man. That's why you got people with $200 billion killing themselves. That stuff doesn't mean anything.
Is that bro Reggie from?
Most of the time when people talk like that, they don't know what the world they talking about. Most time when they talk like stuff like that, they don't know what they're talking about. Because scholars don't. A lot of scholarship is not really online. People having regular discourse, regular dialogue, talking. Talking is important. We got the Bible thumpers and we got the intellectual thumpers. So, like I said, when they talk about scholarly stuff, you're supposed to know where to go with all the scholarly discourse. I know exactly where I go when I want to talk that boss. I want to hit them. I want to hear them bosses, them PhD, THDs talking that boss stuff. I know exactly where to go. I know right where it's at. So you jumping on here and maybe you're a little bit confused, but I think often a lot of times people are confused. I'm a scholar because I read 2 more books than you. No, please. I don't have a lot of time down to read a whole bunch of books. That don't make me a scholar. I don't fool myself, but people want to, and that's a human nature or something like that. Can you see you in the truck, Sister E? Oh no, White, you in the here. You got the read some of them comments, White. Go ahead. You got the floor here.
And I'm home now, so.
That was quick. I thought you was just in there. All right, but White, don't let her run amok in here. Don't let Israel run amok in here. Let me mute her right now.
Yeah. So.
Come on, White, you got the floor. Because she's gonna have me with fringes on by the summertime. The devil is a lie.
So I guess in step with the topic. So Clyde Marshall says Christianity was started by the Romans, but Paul clearly stated, "I am an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin." Jesus said, "I am from the tribe of Judah." Christianity was started by the Romans, so basically he's casting down that thought there that Christianity was started by the Romans, just by these two quotes here. Mike Williams says Booker T. Washington, Ida B. Wells, Frederick Douglass, and Harry Tubman were Republicans, and they were hated by the white supremacist Democrats in the 1800s. Facts. Somebody.
I'm sorry. Who else? Go ahead. Keep going.
Somebody confirmed what Sister E was saying about the light skin, dark skin thing. Well, that's dope. Must be nice where y'all live to just be black.
That is
But yeah,
real.
but Rose, he's from Ohio. He's like an hour from me, so he understands. He gets the racism in Ohio is different. So than down south, it's a little more how should I say, covert, fair weather. Let's see what else we got going on here.
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead. Is that his thing? Come on, Sadiq, you got the floor. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to leave anybody out with those couple of things right there before we got out of here. Is there anything else you see in the comment section that you'd like to touch on, Sister E? Or White? I know, Brandon, you on the laptop or you driving? Is that Brandon or is that White? Let me mute him. He sound like he said, I don't know, like his headphones are not grounded. I don't know what he got going on. He's a tech guy. Go ahead. You got the floor, Sister E.
I just want to go back and make sure people are clear.
Oh boy. Oh, not Israel again.
No, it ain't gonna be Israel. It's gonna be this: stay in the faith. Stay in the faith. With us stay believing upon Jesus Christ. If you even questioning if Christianity is the right label, that should not be an issue. Stay in line with Jesus Christ. That's the only thing.
No, but that's a big topic, right? No. That's a big topic right
now. Yeah,
that's a big topic right now.
I don't want to see people to fall away from the faith. That's my only thing. I know right now we're having these conversations, but I want people to stay in the faith. I want people to stay in the faith, regardless of what's going on right now, because right now we're talking about historical things. We're trying to figure out what happened at the beginning, which led us to this. These are just historical things that we're looking at. But as far as the faith and who Christ is, it's never changed. It's still the same. And I don't want anybody to feel like they're questioning their faith and who Christ is. I want people to stay in the faith. And I don't want to see people fall away because we're having these conversations. These are good conversations, but we're talking about the historical aspect of it. We're not talking about that the faith is wrong. No, the faith is not wrong. It's just we're looking at things from a historical standpoint.
Okay, very good. All right, very good. Very good. Anything you see anything in the comments before we get out of here?
I'm looking.
Let me check.
Boom said, Major said somebody got a flip phone.
All right, go ahead. Let me see who else I gave. But see them on this. I can see them on the. All right, I don't see none of these. These are older comments, I think.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I can see
you saw the other ones, right? Let me just check. Let me check.
I think everybody's tired. It's been a long day.
Yeah, correct. Agrippa. All right, y'all. We're gonna get out of here. We just wanted to drop that and answer those couple of questions, and we're gonna and we'll probably be live tomorrow or 2 more days. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But Moses, I'm gonna try to get you on so Sister E can straighten out your doctrine on Krishna. But we want to hear from Moses and let him, because he said he got some pictures and he loved to tell us the pictures are worth 1,000 words. He said he learned from the pictures and comparing. And I want Roman Sister E to help him in any way they can, because they may not agree totally. Mike Shaw may not even agree with that. A lot of times, you could get to reading what you want into them pictures. My homegirl, her granddaughter, that little girl ain't know. That girl opened up that thing and looking and making up stories in that thing. And I'm starting to think some people in the conscious community be doing that too. Come on, in closing, Sister E, you want to say something?
Is
then
Ron gonna be with us when we do when we have to deal with Ron Moses? You're not gonna leave me with Ron
No,
Moses.
no, I try to hit Bro. I see that he was going live when I was talking to you when you was in the gym. I tried to hit him with the thing before we even went on.
I'm messing with Ron Moses. It's been a long day. This community got us.
Oh my goodness. I don't care if they're on tomorrow. We ain't talking to them folk tomorrow. I'm done right now. I'm tired. But don't worry, all of that stuff kind of worked out. There's Harris. Elder just came in here. You don't know we get ready to jump out of here. You want to say anything in closing if you've been listening, Elder? Yeah, whatever they got going on, some stuff is in the works. I was supposed to go live with the bishop. I don't know what happened. I guess he got caught up. He got busy. I kind of dozed off. Elder, you want to say something before we slide out of here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right.